Hi everyone, this is Amanda McGuire and this is my week 3 discussion board for MPA 530. So in this week's discussion, I'm going to be talking about the budget for the City of Riverside for fiscal year 21-22 and determining which type of budget they used. So I determined that it is a priority-driven budget, and I came to this conclusion based on a few different things. First was in reviewing the budget, just looking at the table of contents, there is a breakdown of the budget based on each department. So I can tell already that this is going to be a combination budget based on the fact that there's the department budget in there. There was also a priority list based on different projects that are priority for the city itself. There were statistics in there discussing the performance of each department and how the money was spent and things like that. And finally, there was actually a statement on page 41 of the budget that said that they have changed their budget to make it more transparent for the city and those and its constituents by utilizing the priority-based budgeting model. Now, in reviewing the budget, I looked at some different journal articles that discuss a priority-driven budget and its uses and its strengths and weaknesses. One of those was the formation of the modern model of budget management in public administration. Another was balancing priorities in a budget. And the last one I found was performance measurement model used in local government. So with those in mind, to summarize some of the pros that I found in a priority-driven / combination budget that uses priority-driven, performance-based model and the program breakdown, what I found was in a performance-based model, this shows areas which need to be prioritized and highlights these areas that where the weaknesses are. It shows the weaknesses in the city, and that could become a priority in the budget because you obviously want to improve performance, so you would focus your funding there. For the priority one, this ensures that high priorities are funded. For a program, this breaks down the needs in each department, which is very helpful because then you can get an overall broad view of the different budget areas that need to be focused on. Some of the cons, some of the weaknesses with a performance-based model is that there can be a bias in the person who is doing the measurement of the performance for each department. If they want to see their department get more money, they may try to make it look a little bit worse than it is so that it becomes a priority when it isn't necessarily one. At the same time, with a priority-based model, this really works best when the city and its constituents have the same priorities. When the people living in the city have needs that they want to see happen in the budget, such as a road being fixed or more funding for a school program, things like that. When those align with the city officials' budget, they're more likely to happen. However, that doesn't happen very often, and a lot of times the lower priorities are going to be forgotten about because they're not being focused on, they're not going to be funded in that fiscal year term necessarily, so they may drop off the budget only to return as an emergency priority later on when, let's say, a small pothole becomes a giant hole in the street that has to be fixed, that kind of thing. Finally, for a program, not all programs have an equal budget, like I discussed. So their needs won't necessarily always be considered a priority, where priorities should be cyclical so that each term a different department has their turn getting a focus as one of the priorities for the city. So in conclusion, based on the pros and cons, my personal opinion is for the city of Riverside, I would stick with a priority driven budget, even though not all priorities are going to always be the top priority. Just in looking at the federal budget and the state budget, for example, and climate change being a necessity and assistance with the pandemic being a necessity, I noticed too that with the city of Riverside, these were also items that were priority. So it is more likely that there will be funding from federal or state to help with those because of the strength of the priority. So even though there won't always be an equal level of departments being funded with each cycle based on the priority driven budget, I still feel this is the best model to use based on the statistics in this particular budget. And that's all I have for this week. Thank you.